And if you start to take those parts and pieces and put it together, then you find that these monolithic structures, these pyramids and other devices, temples of Egypt, actually are global-sized computers, or what we might call geomancy or earth magic today. Of course, we see our technology as something that, has progressed through time, but what you start to learn is that it was actually known about in the ancient past. It's just on a much grander scale than we deal with today. The ancient astronauts and stories of craft visiting planet Earth are numerous and go back all through time. You can find cave paintings of gray aliens. This story goes back and back. But it doesn't just jump to aliens coming to planet Earth. We actually find that there's been a solar system history that has existed, and that life has even existed on the planet Mars. So this tale goes back, and it comes around to a very interesting story. I continually find this goddess encoded all through the different capitals, through all of the different nations. We have Britannia here in the UK, and in America we have Colombia. And in Egypt they had Isis. And as you start to track this goddess, you start to find that she's a representation of a particular star, which is known as Sirius. And then you find that Sirius is, of course, loved by every nation and worshipped by Egypt and South America and probably here. Although I got a different story for the UK, because they have another side of the puzzle, but it seems that this goddess is a representation of the star Sirius. And as you start to look into exopolitics, you find that there were actually two races dealing with planet Earth. I hear there's going to be an exopolitical discussion coming up. Well, I talked to the man who runs the exopolitics, and I said, well, alright, if there were aliens running planet Earth, who are they? And he says, well, with everyone I've spoken to, and all the people and the whistleblowers and contactees and abductees and everything else I could possibly get to, about 600 people he had spoken to, all been abducted or contacted or something, or was involved in government agencies. And they came up with the Alpha Draconans and the Syrians. And these were the two races ruling planet Earth. They had actually joined together in a marriage, in a wedding, and they keep their bloodline pure to keep ruling Earth. Well, so, well, can you describe these races to me? And he says, well, yeah, absolutely. Well, the Alpha Draconans are known for controlling human elites, the institutions and financial systems. They create militarism and keep everyone in scarcity, struggling, and they harvest humans. I don't know if you guys know about these bodies being harvested, but it's a pretty dark tale. I'd say look to William Cooper. And I said, well, that seems to fit. What about the Syrians? And he says, well, they've got all the high-tech technology, and what they do is they just give it out to either faction and let them fight it out. I said, wow, man, that sounds a lot like America. Well, it turns out that Syrians have all the high-tech information, but these two races are known for one being reptilian from the Alpha Draconis, and the other's merfolk, or fish people, from Sirius. And I thought, well, okay, that fits. I got no problem with this. And you start looking at the Vatican, and you find that they've got telescopes and super high-tech libraries below, and they're gathering all the data that no one else can have. If you've seen Angels and Demons, they get a little into CERN there too. We'll get a little deeper into CERN. But I didn't make this up. But at 10 years old, I seem to have been given a message, and I don't know where this came from. There's a new technology that we know of as remote viewing, and the government's found that we're all psychic. All you gotta do is be able to tap into it, and you can draw images, and they'll be right. I actually saw, what's his name? Darren Brown do that with Doctor Who. If you see that in the trick-or-treat, that's just straight remote viewing. That's what they're doing, and that's what the government found. We can all do this, and we can all tap in, and we can bring in knowledge and go visit the moon if you like. Well, at 10 years old, I drew that picture up there at the top, and it has the 4 flying space shuttles. Now, they're titled the Columbia endeavor for the discovery of Atlantis. Coincidence? And the Challenger was exploded. I put these space shuttles up there in my picture. I was 10 years old. This was 6 months before Star Wars came out, or they would have been X-Wings, I'm sure. And that's what they do. They re-encode our own belief systems and our own powers that we had. So luckily I got this out in time. But I wanted to put something cool on these space shuttles. You see, I'd already drawn flames down the sides and all this, and I wanted to really make it cool, so I wanted to put some cool symbol on there. And I ended up with this strange little scratch mark with a curved line and a straight line going through it. And I was like, well, that's not very cool. But I went ahead and I finished the drawing, and I threw this thing in the center that I thought was a spiral galaxy, and I just let that be, and I had nebula and all kinds of other stuff, and then this winged serpent on the other side. I did win the 5th grade award for this. Well, as I came down through the ages and I got to about 28, I started looking into deeper studies, and I came across Robert K. Temple, who wrote a book called The Sirius Mystery. And it's all about these men, this Aboriginal tribe, the Dogon tribe of Mali, Africa, who seem to have an intimate knowledge of the star Sirius. They know that there's a heavy star orbiting Sirius every 50 years. Right. We've only taken a picture of Sirius B in the 1970s. These guys, it's been their ancient mythology passed down through tribes for generations, for 1,000 years perhaps, hundreds of years for sure. And they said, well, how do you know all this about Sirius? They knew that Sirius B was the heaviest object in the universe, and they said actually our galaxy revolves around it. Our solar system revolves around Sirius B. And then it takes every 50 years. And they said, well, how do you know this? And these were anthropologists that were investigating the Dogon. And they said, well, the fish people came and told us. But their title for the fish people was the repulsive abomination. But they were happy because the fish people had come along and taught them how to live in sandcastles. This is all true. Robert K. Temple is a very respected man, and Isaac Asimov read the book The Sirius Mystery, and he said, oh my God, it's incredible because one, there's not a single error in it. And he meant grammatically. And that's Isaac Asimov, also a very smart man. Well, these Dogon then were given this symbol for Sirius, and it just happened to be the very symbol that I had put on every space shuttle I had. Now, I've lost everything in my life. I move around, I lose things, I've dropped things, I've had roommates move with my entire existence, but I still have that picture. And 18 years later, I'm going, oh my God, and I run and I grab the picture and I put them side by side, and I was like, that's it. I had encoded galactic history into my actual picture here. I had the Sirius. Well, the Freemasons, they also have a symbol for Sirius. And it is called the blazing star. The pentagram. The one that you see over a Starbucks logo, the one you see over the Masonic temple, the one you see everywhere you look. That is a symbol of Sirius. That's a very symbol that sits on NASA. As you looked around, and I looked around, and I saw that every capital, and I have film of it all, that every capital in America, and every capital of the city-states has an obelisk, a dome, and a pentagram. Ours in Austin, Texas actually has the goddess standing up there holding the pentagram. And of course the goddess is Sirius. Well, the Egyptian hieroglyph for Sirius is an obelisk, a dome, and a pentagram. So every capital has a giant life-size hieroglyph to Sirius sitting there in the middle. Are we run by extraterrestrials? And how much technology do they really know about? And what is it that they're up to? Well, it seems that if we start to look into our ancient past, we start to come to stories of genetic manipulation. We hear of chimera and weird beasts that have been created, all these different strange entities, things with bird heads and human feet and whatnot. And we're turning that on today. How many of you seen these glow-in-the-dark pigs? Yeah, and they have crossbred pigs with jellyfish and now make them glow in the dark. You know, we're getting right back where we were. And then these pigs had pigs, and guess what? The piglets glow too. So it's passed down through generations. And what they find is that there is such a thing as genetic memory, that there are races and people that know things that they shouldn't know.